Hello, welcome in, welcome in. It's gonna be another great shift at the tavern today, and it is Friday, so happy Friday. Good seeing you guys all in the chat already. Hi to Rob, Satyr, Tiramisu, and RB Gaming. The satirical Satyr is just hindsight, for y'all that didn't catch that in our Discord. I have the worst time saying the satirical Satyr. For me, it's something in it makes it like tongue twistery. I don't know why. So I'm just gonna go with Satyr, so I don't stumble on that every time you talk. But yeah, I hope you guys are doing great, and it'll be a fun Friday together. I know you guys are gonna like the Tavern Keeper's craft. It's really sweet. I'm 99.99% sure it's a memorial piece. Technically, when they submitted this sculpt for their dog to be made into an adventure, they were still alive. Their dog was 13, and that was 6 months ago. I was too shy to ask them directly, like, did he die? But I'm pretty sure, so I'm calling it a memorial piece regardless. I have some pictures on the screen of that dog, and we're gonna make some really, really cute stuff together. And then also, Satyr put in some really nice references of a canine unit in our Discord. I'm actually going to screenshot that and add that to our reference board. Bam. I'm going to start doing that more as you guys put references in the Discord form for me to draw from. And you'll see which ones I'm going to actually reference heavily. I do love the one that looks very heavily inspired by Twilight Princess. Based on the text, I think it's actually AI, but it looks just like Link from Twilight Princess. Great game. But yeah, I hope you guys are doing good. Big Kata is here as well. Hello, welcome in. Happy Friday. Glad I could finally catch a stream live. Yeah, no kidding. And especially since you're officially a student now, ask questions anytime. Beautiful, beautiful. Satyr mentions, yeah, that's what I figured you/people would do, kind of stumble on it. I mean, it has a nice alliteration to it, you know, satirical satyr. It just gets stuck sometimes. And yeah, I'm glad you're happy with that mug idea. Like, we can definitely do that, the eye that you sent, because you're always watching. Excellent, excellent. Very pulling, very good. All right, let's go ahead and get this welcome going. Make myself small. Excellent. And yeah, just kind of kick in this first 30 minutes just to warm up, kind of get comfortable, remember how to use ZBrush. If most of y'all are still at work, so hopefully you have an easy day. Nice transition into the weekend. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to button up all the new poses from Odin. These were done by my husband and Character Creator 4. We haven't done any posing since yesterday, but when we do, we are going to now record and then speed it up. So my streams will start with like a speed sculpt. That way you guys can actually see what goes on in Character Creator 4. So yes, this will require quite a bit of cleanup because we had long sleeves, and as you can see, they did not bind to a bone, so I'll handle that and clean up. All right, I just go here, merge visible. I don't know why he's so much taller than the base, but I do find it really funny, like he is just floating off the base. Very nice, very nice. All right, copy tool. You'll have to use your imagination a little bit to see how nice these poses look, but I know y'all are creative and can see how nice they're gonna look. This one's a little more simple, but a classic. All right, so this is our casual pose. Let's unify that to the scene. And this is our action. Kind of looks like a mess right now. And I still haven't finished his spear, what is it, Gungnir? But I will. Oh, this one's fun. This kind of separated the base for unknown reasons. I'm gonna go ahead and delete these base pieces because I don't need them, and they're exactly the same as the casual. This is actually kind of nice because I can grab the base as its own separate piece. There we go. Just doing a little bit of subtool management, organization. And then I will likely take some extra time to carve in some like Norse runic script right here. There's some really good references that Satyr shared. That's gonna take me a while to get used to. Hope y'all have been doing good though. Always honored to hang out with you guys on a Friday. And then a reminder that tomorrow we'll start these Silent Tavern streams that I do on the weekend. Oh, Mikey's is here. Hello, hello. All right, I'm putting a little description in the chat there to talk about these silent streams. Obviously today is not a silent stream. I'm very much so going to talk to you guys for 3 hours. But Saturday and Sunday, we're just going to hang out, have some good vibes. Quite a few of you guys have already been part of these streams, the Silent Tavern streams, but just putting that on your radar. Especially to my fellow students and just creatives, it's a really good stream to tune into and get your own work done. It's kind of like a little art party. On that note too, the Discord has seen a small upgrade, kind of consistent with that. Week over week, there's some little improvement. There is now a peasant social hub in our Discord, which is actually a voice channel. You can share your screen, you can play video games there together, whatever you want to do. I started it yesterday, and there was 4 or 5 of y'all hanging out for hours and hours yesterday, and I was just really charmed to see that. It makes me very happy. All right, where did I put this? There it goes. Sater says, don't worry, Mia. It sounds weird to me too. All right, let's get this all cleaned up. So all the individual pieces, and then somewhere in here should be the unposed. Where is my unposed? Unpost. I like having a copy of everything back in that T-pose because it's really easy to grab anything that was being silly. But it looks like I hid it from myself. Not a worry. This is why I have a bajillion quick saves, and as well as it's uploaded on Google Drive. So to all my creators out there, you really need to have a system of backing up your work that's just built into your workflow. Every single time I do something here, yeah, it gets uploaded to the cloud or whatever, but I also manually do a copy on Google Drive. I highly, highly recommend that. Ooh, maybe we'll work on the Chimera and start posing that. I have some really good references that Sater shared for that as well. Oh, sweet. This very, very last save here is the unpose. Beautiful. It's meant to be. And go ahead and copy that tool and open up our original here. There we go. Gotta have all my pieces, all my building blocks. All right, so that's the sphere that I'm starting to build on here. It's actually gonna have these cutouts. So I can enable that going to render booleans, click on live boolean so it's highlighted, and you'll see that now it's doing the operation by subtracting. You can control whether it's gonna add or subtract by clicking on these super tiny little, I know the shape, circles. There we go. It's funny because they're so small, but it's a very, very powerful tool that's laid on top of your subtool menu. So just keep that in mind. For the most part, I have booleans turned off because I accidentally click on these all the time, and it can make sculpting very confusing when I have parts that are tearing through each other, and I'm not sure why. Now I can save this, and I have all my pieces in one place. Beautiful. Taka's here. Hello, welcome in. I think it's wild how on these streams, like, our view to chat ratio is just absolutely unhinged. Like, I've never seen that before. I feel very lucky. Also, on my stream right now, the way I have my references scrolled down, it looks like the dog is eyeballing the coffees. Like, it's very cute. Like, 100% begging face. Oh, cute. I'm gonna keep that on there. All right, we're almost halfway through our little warm-up here. And then we'll move right along into sculpting this very good boy. And of course, I have some fun design and poll questions for you guys. Right now, I'm just gonna take my time and move these sleeves into place. You can bind them to bones and they will bend with a character in Character Creator 4, but it's going to distort like really wildly. You see this problem a lot, and game studios have to be pretty creative with how they deal with like long dresses and long sleeves. It's much easier for me to just keep it a separate piece and then use my move brush and then organically and intentionally move it. See, that didn't even take that long, and now it's intentional and just the way that I want it. Very nice. I'm gonna click on auto group so my pieces are grouped in a way that makes sense, because currently the belt and the sleeve are friends and I'm not sure why. All right, so auto groups, now every polygroup is where it should be. Some quick little rotations there, and bam, we're almost exactly in place. For the most part, it's always worth setting things up to where they just are correct the first time, and then do as little finagling by hand as possible. But sometimes you really just can't be manually adjusting it. Bam, that's like already done. I'll definitely need to move the raven so he's not getting speared by Odin. That is, they are friends, they are not. That's like his pet or his familiar. Let's go ahead and rotate that raven so it's not a crime. There we go, now they're friends. Very good. I'm gonna change it later, but as of now, it looks like the raven's kind of like booping his head onto his hand, like for pets. It's very cute. And then the spear will need to be a lot taller. Among other things, I need to actually finish designing the head of the spear. I just haven't. That's really all there is to that. I don't have a reason for it. I just haven't done that yet. I usually have everything finished before I send it off to posing, but I kind of gave this guy expedited treatment. There we go. Masking just the bottom of it using my 3D gizmo, and I can just stretch this shape straight down. Oh, don't be silly. There we go. Perfect. All right, this pose is already mostly cleaned up. That came together quick. I like it. Sater says they are a pain. Less of an issue now in advance with engines, but in general, yes, they require separate rigs. And that's talking to about like long dresses, long sleeves, that kind of thing. And then Flea I'm gonna call you Flea, that's okay. Flea says, oh yeah, setting up cloth coalition and any game engines, such a pain to get it looking good, right? Glad we're all on the same page here. And it's cool to have so many different like creatives in my chat. Like, I try not to get lazy when I describe things. You guys make me lazy because you already have so much information. So I can just like, you know, sleeves, they're a pain. You guys are like so on it with specifics, you know what I'm talking about? It's kind of nice. But I know we get plenty of people tuning in here that are just kind of watching, you know, for fun, not because they've done it before. So I gotta make sure that I still explain what I'm talking about. All right, looking pretty darn good. This is a simple pose, but a good one. Oh, I don't know if you guys saw, but my husband printed Thor like 10 times at all these different sizes. He'll probably post it in the Discord. I think he posted it on TikTok of all places first. But it's a really, really cool video. And I don't know, we don't usually print my work that many times at different scales. You can definitely tell that spring is here, things are warming up because Ricky and I are 3D printing all the time again. For those that aren't as familiar, resin printers kind of throw a tantrum when it gets cold. Obviously you can just print indoors or somewhere that's warmer or temperature controlled, but most people have their printers in like the garage like I do. And in Tennessee, it usually freezes every night during winter and a good portion of spring. So it was a bit of a pain. We talked to Lego about it because they're super cool and generous with us. And they sent us a heater actually, and that helped quite a bit. So they actually have little add-ons you can now put inside of resin printers, heaters, to prevent that problem. It's not perfect, but it did help immensely. And we didn't pay for it. They sent it to us. Like, I'm not going to complain. It was very, very generous and cool of them. If I told you guys how much I love Lego, they're pretty awesome. Lego and Bamboo Labs have been my absolute favorite brands to work with. Anycubic has also been pretty generous, but they're a huge pain to work with as a creative. I'm not sure what the communication barrier is or what, because I know Lego is also Chinese, but Anycubic is very demanding. They want a lot for their free gifts. All right, let's kind of adjust this hood here. It looks a little too small right now. I'm kind of grabbing his head. That's better. Very nice. This is another model. It's going to look fantastic scaled up. Rob says, Mia streams are like my Bob Ross replacement while I work. I am so honored that you say that because like I love Bob Ross. Everyone loves Bob Ross. But I've legit like watched his, his series of like painting, his show, and like taken notes because that is exactly the kind of vibe I want to go for. And I just, who doesn't love Bob Ross? So thank you. That was a huge, huge compliment. I'm still working towards that. Interactive Bob Ross. Yes, and that's really my only like twist on it. Beautiful. Sater says, what level do you have to get at or be for companies to send you stuff? I've always been curious and never had an opportunity to ask. It's really hard to say. I've had companies reach out when I like in the first year, and then why did they reach out to me? I am not sure. I've been doing it for 6 years, and I think I got the most offers and contacts probably about a year to 2 years ago. I should be able to describe more succinctly the size of my business, but I really can't. Do I just say like how much I make a year? They don't know that. They don't care. So I'm really not certain. I think they saw that I was live streaming again and making more YouTube videos, and they were interested in that. Yeah, I would say once your audience is like a couple thousand people that kind of roughly cycle through you, not necessarily like customers, but like people that are keeping an eye on your stuff. Bamboo Labs, I was shocked. My husband pretty much was like, hey, we love your stuff. Would you send us a printer? It was a very, very bold email. Even we thought like there's no way they're going to agree. And they did. And they sent it to us, and that was crazy. So must be doing something right. Flea says, Flea is totally fine. Beautiful. Usually people ask how I pronounce it, and I say flea plus barracuda. So fleacood. Okay. What I get for using a word made up language in childhood. How fun, how fun. Empress says, what inspired the Silent Weekend streams, by the way? Also, hello. I don't think I said it out loud. Oh yes, hello. So the silent streams are inspired by mental health. Essentially, I want to make sure that I can stream every day and hang out with you guys, but not burn out. So the tricky thing about artistic burnout is it's kind of insidious and it just sneaks up on you. It's not like you get a little more tired each day. It's like, for me, it's like I'll just wake up one day and be like, wow, I hate this. I know it's very melodramatic, but it's true. It kind of just like pops up all at once. So by doing the silent streams 2 days out of the week, it kind of like takes all that pressure off, and it serves as like an artistic reset. But I still get to hang out with you guys because I get a lot out of these streams as well. I hope that makes sense. It's to prevent future problems. And it's also nice to kind of get a different audience around me as well. I definitely know there's people that tune in only to the weekend streams or vice versa. So that's kind of a cool thing. Very good questions right off the bat here, guys. I love it. Thank you. And Sater says, yeah, Creature Caster has a creator content thing, but you have to have a certain number of subs. I actually have not heard of that business. I will need to look into that. But yeah, usually I know with some like branding deals, they're very clear on what you need to be able to bring to the table. Which Ricky and I finally have like a social media strategy for the first time. So that's something that we're gonna be working on this year. It's partly because we just really enjoy making like videos and graphics and stuff in addition to the modeling. But we really never just had dedicated time to be able to do so. Everything's at a pretty nice flow right now though, so I imagine we'll be doing more of that. Oh, it's his cape. I was like, what in the world is this piece? There we go. There we are. Perfect. Now I want to make sure that this is tucked under the mantle here. Again, I mention this all the time where it's like clipping errors in a mesh are not as distracting as you might think. Video games are a great example where that happens all the time, and Most people don't even notice it. On a stationary, so a static figure, it's a little more important that there's some care taken through, that like his head isn't poking through his hood, right? But I always have to tell my students, like, you have got to move on. Don't get stuck on clipping issues. There's always going to be some. Don't worry about it. Just get it to where it's looking good and move on. I have to say that to myself even, because I still get stuck on it every now and then. And the real trick is you'll just get faster at identifying the major clipping issues that need attention versus just nice to have. There we go. All right, let's get a fun render here. Flea says, I totally get the waking up and just saying, I don't want to do this right now. Right? Oh my goodness. I mean, again, so I'm 28. I'll be 29 December 14th. But after college, I took quite the like mental health like reset. It's like I had to relearn how to just exist. I was so freaking miserable in college. Cannot emphasize that enough. Great student, big brain, very smart, bad at school, good grades. I just mean like I don't handle it well. Anyway, but I was so miserable in college. I was so excited to graduate, and I really thought that once I graduated, I'd be happy. But I wasn't. I was just like neutral at best. It's like you remove all this misery in your life, and instead of becoming excited and happy, you're just neutral at best. And I really had to figure out how to like make happy. It's very difficult to know what you want in the first place and then to go about doing that. Everyone says, oh, well, I want to be happy. It's like, what does that even mean? It's like, I want to be content. That's what I strive for. I'm also like a more stoic person, so that's what brings me peace. But yeah, it's a layered topic. There's a lot we could touch on there. Sater says, clipping was the bane of my perfectionist existence in undergrad. I bet. Lee says, I usually try and cycle between the different creative things to help. Oh, that's also a great idea. So in addition to like art, I'm also like, I really enjoy gardening and like pruning and fussing over flowers. I really enjoy that, which is still like a creative endeavor. And I also crochet. So that's kind of fresh and fun for me. Empress says, 28, I'm going to lay in my grave now. How old did you guys think I was? Flea says, wait, you're exactly 1 year and 4 days younger than me. My birthday is the 10th. No kidding. That's another birthday I can add to December. My dad's on the 11th. There's a lot of birthdays of people that I know that are right close to mine. All right, let's see if I missed anything. I think we're mostly on the same page. Yes. Very good. Yeah, so whatever comes like heavier topics, such as like artistic burnout and stuff, just know that you guys can always ask me about those topics. I'm not shy to talk about those things. And I don't even think it has to be like this heavy gloom and doom either. I think it's really interesting. Don't forget that my live streams are just as much your guys' live streams. It wouldn't be a tavern without the peasants, right? If I'm ever not in the mood to talk about something, I would just tell you. So you don't have to worry about that. All right, this is looking good. I feel warmed up. I feel refreshed. I can go ahead and save this. We have one pose cleaned up, and now we can actually go straight into the Tavern Keeper's craft. I'm going to review the chat right before we jump into this, and then I will talk about more details of this really lovely piece we're going to work on together. Empress says, I was like, finally, someone close to my age. I'll be turning dead 30 in May. We're like the same age. It's less than what, 10% difference? Sater says, 9 years and 358 days younger than me. I love that no one's saying their age. Everyone's gonna like math this out. Beautiful. And Flea says the Empress, I feel that turning 30 this December is a weird feeling. I still got another year. 2. I can count. All right. Anyway, today's Tavern Keeper's craft. If you are new here, some context. Hi, my name is Mia, and I am Mia of M3DM, which is short for Mia's 3D Models. I've been doing this for about 6 years, and I take requests on Patreon. So people give me money, I get to do this full time, and then I make the request. That's kind of the flow. If you have a request you want me to make, there's links in the chat, like always, or description. But anyway, this person their name is Dungeon World, their real name, jokes. And they've actually supported me on Patreon for 50 months. I don't say how many years because Patreon, that's just how they say it on my analytics, and I don't feel like dividing by 12. So 50 months it is. Thank you very, very much to Dungeon World. They left this comment, I would like to have my dog sculpted. Today I had some bad news about his health, and he is my boy, but our time together is pretty limited. And this was 5 or 6 months ago, so I'm 99.9% sure the dog has passed. But in the meantime, I need to make this something that's fantasy applicable, because though I do make 3D models, they're all within the TTRPG application, right? So I thought it'd be fun to make his dog into like an adventurer. So here are the references that he sent me of his dog. Obviously a very good boy. Are we not going to scroll? Let's not be silly. Anyway. There we go. I'm not sure why this is kind of locking up. I'm trying to show you guys all of these pictures. Here we go. This is a reference that Hindsight put in that looks really cute. That's in our Discord if you guys have any other ideas you want to share. And then there's another close-up of the dog. So I'll be looking at these pretty closely, get it, sculpting likeness for animals is really tricky, and this looks like a German Shepherd mix of sorts, so we're going to do our best, but for the most part, we're going to capture his spirit and not worry too much on exacts. Trying to make this note happy. It seems like when I scroll, it kind of snaps up to the top. There we go. They sent a lot of references. It was very sweet. I'm really happy with the references too, because unintentionally he gave me like a straight on and a straight profile or silhouette, which is like ideal for 3D. I think this is them just squishing their head against the side of the wall while they sleep. It's so cute. And then here's a reference that I found online that I thought would be nice to kind of bring this all together. So yes, that's what we're working on today. This is my second memorial piece that I have sculpted this year. The first was a Scottish fold cat that I turned into a tressum. A tressum is pretty much, it's a celestial in D&D, so it's like a cat with wings. We are all talking about birthdays in the chat. Very good, very good. Oh, and I have a very important question for you guys. Thanks for voting in the warm-up poll. The question was, what's the best way for a villain to make an entrance? And the answer was from y'all, a slow clap descending a staircase. Love the melodrama. All right, this first poll here is extremely important. And the answers are very varied. What is this dog adventurer's personality? All right, that poll is live. Very, very important. RB says, so we are starting from a sphere. No. I'm going to probably have base mesh in here to speed this up and give me something to start with. I have some really nice animal base meshes from Rowena Frenzel. Really lovely person and artist. Here we go. We're going to start from this. Though I have sculpted a few heads from scratch when I did Anubis, which isn't really a dog head, it's like a jackal, but still. All right, we're gonna set up our scene. The first thing I'm doing is changing my material from basic to skin shade. This is all just a lot of personal preference. It makes the live stream more legible, but it's also fun for me. My model looks good as I work on it. I'm gonna go under the render tab and enable ambient occlusion, increase it a touch. Also, we're gonna bump up preview shadows to about 0.5-ish. The next thing I'm doing is changing my lighting. So we'll have two lights here. The first one I like having off to the left or so, and then the second one's kind of like a bounce light that I just make a warm reddish tone. I usually make this one significantly weaker. So the first one has an intensity of 0.85 and the second one is just 0.3. If they're both 0.85, it's gonna just blow out the whole model and it's gonna be kind of hard to look at. And then just for extra measure of good contrast, I'll come down to adjustments, click adjust to enable. We're going to drag up this graph a touch and then increase the contrast until I see a visible change. Perfect. You can toggle this on and off by clicking adjust. I think this might be even a little too bright, but we can handle that later. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is actually poly paint because dogs are difficult. And Princess got a base mesh for everything. You know it. Rob says, I was curious how long I've been a patron after hearing how long this person has. And apparently it's been 4 years. Time flies. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. You're one of my first patrons I memorized the name of. Thank you, by the way, Rob. I feel very lucky to have people like you supporting me for so long. I wonder what base mesh she doesn't have. You'll know because I make it on stream. So let's see, about, oh goodness. If you guys go to my YouTube channel, there's one where I sculpted a peacock mantis shrimp. That whole thing was from scratch, and I did not have a single base mesh to help me because it was so ridiculous and niche. That's a pretty good stream. Just lingual, very helpful. Remember to like the stream if you think he's the goodest boy. All right, let's get to work, okay? All right, this is actually a pretty darn good start. There's a couple key differences here. It looks like the dog has floppy ears. Oh, the dog's name is Harry, by the way. It's really hard to tell because in some they're up and in some they're down. Okay, they're like half up, half down. Okay, we got a cute thing going on here. Now let's also get that color done before I forget. I'm gonna change my paintbrush from dots to drag rectangle, and then we're gonna get this kind of nice whitish beige. I find it easier to work from lights to darks. There's a nice beigeish color. And then now let's darken that. We're gonna do this in 3 layers. Kind of like a cake. Everything's a cake. All right. And this actually is kind of similar to how I color most things, which is like this 2 or 3 tone. All right, that color kind of runs down the front. There we go. I'll need to actually lighten the belly a little more later, but that's fine. And then adding an even darker shade on top. Even darker. There we go. It's a really good looking dog. You can see in these pictures where some that he's seen it in older than others for sure. All right, and then a little bit lighter right here. All right, we have some color based out here, so at least it looks something like the dog. Now let's start actually adjusting shape. The first thing I'm going to do is change the ears. To do that, I'm actually going to split them into their own piece. And by that, I just mean their own subtool. And then we're going to rotate with the 3D gizmo. All right, they are not pointy like this. That is very cute. But it's easier to point them up and then fold them than have them folded and try to peel it up from there. I don't know if I mentioned it on stream before, but I grew up with 2 German Shepherds. Their names were Ike and Thora, and they were just the best. So I enjoy sculpting any sort of shepherd mix. Makes me think about my good dogs. Oh yeah, the Hodag was freeform as well. So I have a couple of streams within the last month or so where I sculpted from scratch. Mikey says, is this a Rowcat Studio base mesh? Yes, yes. Nerds here, welcome back. And then Mathitos, I'll call you Math. Welcome. Any chance you start uploading your models to my Made Factory? It's easier to manage all owned models on a single library. Oh yeah, I have every model I've ever made on my Made Factory. Boop, let me go ahead and send that to you. There you go. And then if you support me on Patreon as a legendary patron, I also sync your status there to my mini factory. So you get every single model I have available on my mini factory as well. Obviously, if you leave the tier on Patreon, you no longer have access. But as long as you're a patron, you have all 920 models of mine. All right, now let's start to bend these ears over. I don't get to sculpt enough dogs. This is really fun. And I don't mind if this comes out looking a little bit more on the puppy side. They mentioned they had this dog, Harry, for 11 years. So. And then Jared Huss is here. Hey, welcome. Thanks for joining. Oh, and then before we get too far, let's go ahead and throw a little stamp up here. I like to have this as a progress point so we can kind of see how far we've come during the stream. That's a good spot for it. All right, back to work. Right now we are just adjusting this base mesh so it's going to have all of the key features that our dog in the reference has. The tail is much fluffier, so that's what I'm working on next. You'll notice that as I work on this, I pick different pieces of the mesh to split into their own subtools, and that just makes it a little easier to control and keep track of. And then depending, every now and then, I'll usually go into my Z-Remesher and then just change the mesh and simplify it a touch. The lower poly it is, the easier it is to keep track of. Yeah, this dog has that classic kind of like puffy, short German Shepherd tail. It's definitely a Shepherd mix. And then one of the last things we'll be doing is adding all of that fun fur detail and stuff. It can be tempting to add it early on, but you want to work from simplest to most complex forms and do not rush the process. There we go. All right, that's coming out nice. Empress says, I was curious, do you have any videos showing the full process? Yes, I have quite a few of them. Yeah, concept to getting print ready, to printing, mock coloring, yeah. And then I used to do a model start to scratch on an entire stream, but it was really rushing and stressful. And I have videos like that for my students too. All right, let's keep on working here. So he looked a little more stout. This dog's a little too lean. Looking at this picture right here, I don't know if he included any where his dog is standing. He was a lazy boy. His neck was a lot wider and fluffier, so let's go ahead and adjust that. He had that really strong, fluffy chest, so let's go ahead and bring that form forward. There we go. And then his face wasn't as droopy. Gosh, look at those sweet eyes. He's definitely much older in that picture. There we go. And then a little bit of a sharper angle here on the face. Probably be adding eyeballs sooner than later. I'm gonna add one subdivision level to the face so it's a little easier for me to work on. And then let's add some eyeballs. I'm gonna use IMM primitives in a sphere. Click and drag. Perfect. And let's set these in. Jared said, how long have you been doing these streams now? You know, I started a little bit on and off in like as late as 2020, 2021, but it's really as of this year, 2025, I'm doing it very consistently. This is actually my 11th live stream in a row. So I kind of just made it part of my everyday process, and I plan to keep on doing that for forever, really. Sater says, as far as I know, she's never shown the printing process side of things. For concept sculpt, May recommend the C holder or the Techno Lich. Both of those were fantastic and really, really fun. But yeah, I don't really show the 3D printing process because it just looks like I just remesh it by clicking remesh by union, decimate, and then pre-support. It feels very simple and very boring and quick to me. If you guys want to see more of that, I could probably just make a little short video for that. Very nice. But yeah, if you guys have any more questions, keep asking. I am an open book. All right, we have the eyes in here. We will make eyelids later, but for now, we're gonna keep it pretty simple. All right, I'm gonna turn off perspective, and then we're gonna zoom in on this face here, and we're gonna start to draft this sweet expression. I'm gonna click Control D to add one more layer of subdiv, and then using my standard brush to start building up these forms a touch. This isn't too far off from what the dog looks like, but obviously we're lacking some details. I'm gonna dig in those nostrils by using the standard brush and then building up the form around them, also using the standard brush. If you're wondering, wait, how can you use the same brush to add and remove material? Essentially, whenever you hold down Option on a Mac or that's Alt on a Windows, it inverts the brush. There we go. It's really important whenever you're concepting stuff like this that you look from all sides because this is in fact a 3D model. You'll notice that I'm still fairly low res, and I'll keep it like that for as long as possible. The more polys you start to introduce, it gets really, really difficult to keep your shapes clean. He's got those like natural worried eyes, but I don't want to make him look sad, so it's going to be a delicate balance. I'm looking at a lot of reference points, kind of measuring the head in terms of eyeballs. And like, what does that mean? Essentially, so I have my eyes blocked in here. If I take his eyes in this reference, I can see that if I take both of his eyes and put them together, that's essentially the width of the nose. I do something very, very similar when I'm working on humans, and I kind of measure everything in terms of heads. You guys might have heard of like heroic scale versus like normal scale. Like the average human, I think, is 7 heads tall. But like all like superheroes are like 8 to 9 heads tall. It's all just proportions. So in this case, we're measuring in terms of eyeballs. It doesn't really matter what you pick. I recommend eyes or heads. It's just a personal preference. So right here, I can see that his lip distance is very, very small. But I'm also accounting for the focal shift of the camera, which is kind of distorting his snout to make it look longer and his head's tilted down. So I have to keep all of that in mind. That's why you can't just like take a 3D model and overlap it on a 2D image and get accurate results because you're dealing with perspective. When I click the letter P on my computer, you'll see this is perspective on, perspective off. If you haven't looked up at the screen in a little bit because you're at work, I understand. If I could get your attention really quick because this is very funny. Perspective is a powerful, powerful thing. You can further adjust like your focal shift by going to Document, I believe. No, sorry, Draw. And then here is the different focal lengths. So as I change these, you can see it affects it even more. I believe the human eye sees around 35? I don't remember, but I sculpt around 50, and I turn it off every now and then to make it nice and flat, so there's no perspective shift at all. Jared says, cool, I hope the stream stays fun and successful. Thank you so much. I do make sure it stays fun. On the weekends, I do these like cozy silent streams where there's no mic commentary. I just kind of hang out, put on some music. You're welcome to come, get a nice drink, kick back, maybe work on your own creative endeavors. But yeah, the silent streams on the weekend really allow me to kind of refresh while still streaming. Now, as far as they're successful or not, honestly, if they never got past the growth I have now, I'd be happy with that. I have a very consistent group of about 20 to 30 people that stop by, and I feel very lucky for that. More is more, but at some point, I think I don't want to get too big of a creator, because that sounds kind of odd. I really love how right now it's really easy to keep up with the chat, and you guys can actually talk to each other. It's not just like flying by. Kind of skimming through here, making sure I'm not missing anything. Empress says, I'm so tempted to see if Mia could give me some direction, but my husband might end me. I already dropped $55 on a recent course for anatomy. I just barely know forms, if that, to be honest. That's okay. Hey, anatomy is, again, I talked to you about that before, but that is such a huge topic to tackle. I would focus on getting comfortable with your 3D software of choice first before you start tackling something like that. That's like, I'm going to learn math. I'm like, math, geometry, calculus, linear algebra, like there's trigonometry. There's so many things within math, you know, it's such a vague, giant topic to say you're going to learn anatomy. Anatomy of what? And even then, if you say humans, it's like, okay, like superhero anatomy, real anatomy. Art is fun. Also, for those that are new and lurking, some have already tuned in and say hi. Thanks so much for being here. If you are enjoying the stream, I encourage you to subscribe. It's the easiest way to find me again. That being said, I stream almost every day. And if you do hear noise in the background, it's probably my dog. There is a little blue blanket on the floor lumped. You can kind of see his legs poking out, but he wraps himself every morning. He takes his late morning nap very, very seriously. And I stream at pretty much the same time every day, so he's almost always asleep during the stream. I swear my dog does things other than sleep. Again, he just takes his late morning nap very, very seriously. So right now I'm using my standard brush to kind of strike out and block out any like bony landmarks like his cheekbones, but I don't want to make him too gaunt. I understand that this is a memorial piece and obviously his dog was very old, but I don't want his dog to look like he's on death's door in a memorial piece. That kind of defeats the whole purpose. I want him to look not necessarily like in his prime, but also not, you know, suffering. All right, let's move these ears forward a touch. There we go. You'll notice I'm not spending too much time in any one place. I really make sure to kind of rotate throughout the model and make little improvements everywhere I go. He really does have a lot of neck fluff, so I'll make sure to kind of puff that up without making him look too much like Lassie. The legs are pretty thin on the base mesh. I'll use move and back face mask to bulk them up a touch and bring out the shoulders. Getting the silhouette of a fluffy animal is very, very tricky. Just make small improvements at a time and just keep rotating and adjusting. I haven't quite captured the essence of this dog yet, but I'm making progress. Yeah, Cider mentions like anatomy of a two-headed winged dragonborn. Yes, that was a stream I did about a week ago. That's a good one to rewatch. Yeah, I didn't think about how much cool content's gonna be on my channel after like a year. There's gonna be all kinds of different models you guys could like reference and rewatch. I like watching my old streams too, just to kind of see like how I'd approach things now versus during that stream, because I'm always learning. Lower these ears much closer to the head. There we go. I love that he has one ear up in a lot of these. It's Sater says, honestly, I wouldn't even mess with it beyond the neck ruff and tail from what you have now. Dude, I agree. I think this is coming out really nice. I'm going to lower this point here because he wasn't quite that skinny. Legs look good, build's pretty solid here. And then the face needs more work. Oh, it's just a very silly thing to zoom in on. All right. So a couple of things here. One is like the point where his lip terminates is a lot higher. So let's go ahead and bring that point up. It's also going to make him look a little more friendly and not so dead-eyed. So I have Move Topological selected right now, which allows me to grab each mesh individually. When I have Shift F enabled, you can actually see there are two different colors right here, and that's because they're different pieces. So I can quickly pick between the two. I go with Move and Back Face Mask to make the ears kind of taper into the head a little better there. And I'm thinking about maybe giving him one ear that's pointing up and one ear that's pointing down, because that happens in a lot of these pictures. Jared said, he's also missing his hat. The hat in this is really cute. I might end up giving him a hat. We'll see. Sater says, I think the Chimera the other day was a great example of your incredible progress as an artist in just a couple of years. Aw, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm always working to improve, but it also feels good when other people notice it too. All right, and then that little corner terminates not directly below the eye, but a little in front of it. So you'll notice that I'm continuously referencing back to the eye over and over and over again. And there's a reason why I picked something and then I kept that point, because if I start referencing the nose relative to something else, it's gonna just keep shifting. You need to pick a reference point and then stick to it and build around that. All right, his nose and his snout is a little too long, so let's go ahead and scoot that in a touch. And then bring that lip up. Very similar to working on human faces. You have to really, really take your time when you're sculpting animal faces. Especially because this is a memorial piece, I want to really take my time. But that's where people are going to look first, right? And so you want there to be something nice to look at. All right, so now I'm gonna start looking at the width of the snout, again, relative to the eye. So we have one eye here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's about 4 eyeballs worth. And I can literally just take his eye here. Okay, I forgot that I made his eye like gigantic in his head, like that big. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can see that his snout is a little too wide here. I swear, am I oversimplifying things? It works. It really works. That's why you see like, when like traditional artists are, like painting or drawing, they like take their pencil and their thumb out and they go like this and close one eye. That's what they're doing. They're just measuring stuff in terms of like their thumb or like usually their eraser nib on their pencil. Squish. Just a little bit of squish. Oh, he's starting to look a little dopier and a little smilier. It's happening. I'm going to make the eyes a touch smaller here, or just bring them closer together. I have them a little too far apart. Like right here, you can see they're about 1 eyeball away, not 2. So let's scoot that in and then bring this whole head in. He looks so sad. Okay, let's fix that. It looks even more sad. Oh my God, stop looking so sad. There we go. Now it just looks dead-eyed. Hey, it's an improvement. I need to start adding in some eyelids before I do too much more work here. I also need to tilt his snout up a bit. It's not supposed to be quite that downward of a point. And this transition's also a bit smoother. It's really just a big game to spot the difference. Dogs are tricky though, especially with this head shape, because if you go too far, it looks like a fox. So you have to, especially with this color scheme, just take your time. Don't get frustrated. Let's get some of that neck fluff in here texture-wise. It's gonna sit away from his face a touch. And then same with this. It's gonna have some ridge here. You'll notice that I'm starting to build up the form of the fur, right? But I'm not high res at all. Keep that in mind. Stay as low poly as possible, because you really can get a lot done here. Yeah, see, look how nice that looks. I'm just using the move brush and inverting it and pulling out. Like click, drag, click, drag. There you go. This like transition right here is driving me crazy. That will have to get fixed later on because they're two separate pieces. You can patch that seam by dynameshing them together, but in the meantime, I can just use a clay brush and kind of gently patch that. If I move it around at all, it's gonna just show the seam again. But there we go. Make that lip line a bit darker. Let's go ahead and use dots. There we go. All right, we're at kind of like a nice progress point here again, versus from where we started. We're seeing a lot of changes. All right, let me reference here. Ember says, hopefully this isn't a student-only question. I'm actually gonna answer that first. So if you hang out in my streams for weeks and weeks and months at a time, and you're asking a lot of like art-heavy student-y questions, eventually I will stop and I'll answer less and less. But for the first like month or so of you being here and when you're new, it's a free-for-all. Ask as many questions as you want, please. Emperor says, hopefully this isn't a student-only question, but how do you transfer what you're seeing in a reference into your work? Like, it's easy to gather references, but how do you use? Yeah, so I'm essentially doing that thing where I measure by eyeballs, and it's a huge game to spot the difference. So let's say I'm trying to find this shape here. The first thing that I'll do, this is what I'm doing in my head, so I'm gonna show it to you guys with a picture, because pictures are more helpful. Okay. So we have this picture here, but we also have other things going on, such as like perspective and all kinds of complicated things. But I can measure things in my head and kind of guess the way that they're going to lay. So I just break them down. I see that this essentially, okay, don't be like that. This essentially is just a cylinder. And then we have it connects to a big sphere. And I'll just kind of keep that in mind while I'm working on this and the ratio between these two. And then I just use my eye as a reference to measure everything through. So we have this eye here. I'll put it in different colors. Let's do hot pink. Okay, we have the eye. So literally I will see, okay, if I take this eye right here and click and drag, I can see I'm 2 eyeballs away from the start of the ear. And then I'll just measure that on my own. And then the snoot is 1, 2, 3 eyeballs long. So it's a lot of that where I just keep doing that. And then I account for how wrong the reference is, if that makes sense. So like the one right here, this would not be a good reference to try and measure the snoot because it's going towards the camera. This one's great because it's on the side. So there's very, very little distortion there. But I wouldn't use this reference to measure like across his forehead, right? This is a great reference to measure the distance between his eyes. Does that make sense? I find that doing a little sketch is usually the most, the easiest to understand. And Briss says, okay, very good. Flea says, where have you gotten your non-human base meshes? Is it just stuff you've accumulated over the years or ones you specifically made? Two different ones. Essentially, I'll make some myself from scratch. So if I go to my master tools here and go to items, pretty much everything here I made from scratch. So like this little cat right here, this is that Scotch fold. I made these from scratch and then I'll maybe use this to iterate more cats and stuff. But as far as like my just default blanket of animal base meshes, I'm a huge fan of Rowena. They're not 100% accurate, but they're really, really good and they're really close. So. Jared says, step 1, find an eyeball. Step 2, measure the eyeball. Step 3, count some eyeballs. Yeah, pretty much. Thank you, Jared. Sater says, see, what she's doing is figuring out how to recreate what she is seeing rather than hoping or assuming. Exactly. And for those that are newer here, my background is in engineering. I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and you can definitely see more and more of that in my art process and the way that I construct things. Yep, that makes sense. Find something in the scene you can use to measure. Yep. As opposed to just like referencing vague things. I don't know. I've seen so many art tutorials out there that are just all over the place. So one thing that's driving me crazy here is I'm making this look like Lassie. I specifically said I was not going to do that, and it's looking like Lassie. It's not looking like this dog. So I need to fix that. All right. One of the first things that I'm going to do is create some eyelids. That kind of helps me ground the model sometimes. I make eyelids really simple. I just duplicate the original eyeball, and then I use mask pen right down the middle, and then Control W to polygroup. You split those in different pieces, polish by features and close holes, and zero mesh by half for good measure if you want nicer topology, and then I just inflate a touch. And bam, he's got personality, just like that. I find it's like a really easy thing to kind of ground my models when I'm starting to kind of like lose my footing as far as like all the subtleties. I find putting in some some eyelids is a really good way for me to kind of have a better construction point. And it's a stylistic choice that I tend to do. All right, we now have some eyelids. Let's shape us some eyeballs. First thing I'm going to do is hold Shift and F to make this green wireframe pop up. It's just a little easier for me to see. And then I'll click and drag my move brush to shape it. This is going to make it a lot easier for me to make him look like he's actually happy and not just like really sad. It's going to mostly follow the curvature of the eye. But with this, I can really start to kind of check my references on the side here and make sure the eye shape is correct. Let's pull that straight back. There's more volume here. Oh, thank you, Sater. So Sater put in our Discord a side-by-side of a shepherd and whatever in the world Lassie is. Okay, to be fair, one is just a longer hair version of the other. I didn't realize how similar they look. That makes me feel a little better. Cool. I'm going to share that with y'all too. If you're not in our Discord, join. You should. It's free and we're fun. All right, but I'm also going to throw this into our pile here. Where did it go? Come on, Mac. Here we go. So yes, very similar. A rough collie, duh. All right. And it does kind of look like more shepherd, but I didn't realize how similar these two look. This is an especially shepherdy looking shepherd. My dog eyes looked like this, except he had lighter color eyes. So something that is causing it to look more like this is how low I have this fur swoop. So let's push that higher up. Ah, yes, that helps a lot. And then looking at this reference right here again. I'm going to turn off all poly paint just for a moment. And we'll see, I don't have this taper that I'm supposed to have. Let's get to make this dog purple to refresh my eyes. There we go. So I messed with the mouth line so much that it kept making this face wider and wider and wider, so that was part of the problem. And if you guys are wondering like, why did it end up kind of looking more like this? It's because I find that this dog to be really pretty. I like collies and I like Dobermans a lot. And you'll see that because I'll morph things to look like that when I'm working. So know your biases. Oh, and a reminder in the chat right now, there is a link to the free STL of the day. Today I am sharing a free baby beholder. Oh, that's helpful. Thank you, Hindsight. I mean Seder. Shepherds really do have more of a downward face. This is more slanted. Jared said, it's adorbs. Yeah, I love me some good dogs. Yeah, I think when I smushed this snout, I smushed it a little too much. That's better. We're making progress. I'm gonna have to come back to it a few times, you know, kind of cycle through it, but I'm kind of rotating the camera to look somewhat like this. And yeah, I'm seeing some resemblance. But I've made these ears a lot more puppy. They really are more half up, half down on the reference. It's a very complicated ear. There we go. I'm starting to get it, guys. It's starting to happen. Cool. Might take a break here and start working on the clothes. Okay. Jared said, the dog is too, but I was talking about the baby beholder. Oh, thanks for looking. I don't know. I don't assume that you guys left to look at it, but I appreciate that you did. Jared, are you just finding me now through stream, or you kind of followed my M3M work before? I'm kind of curious. I share a free STL on my Patreon every single day. Just a reminder to all y'all that are new and lurkers. All right, I'm going to get rid of that shoulder muscle there because it's too big. And we're going to shorten up the legs a touch. There we go. That's looking more like the reference. Grabbing my Move Topological brush. Let's kind of scoot that in here. Perfect. Jared says, I'm a long lost elephant. Jared Huss. I feel like it's the same name as from Titancraft. I'm not certain. AKA Sappy. Okay, I was right. That's what I thought. I was like, I recognize the last name, but I wasn't 100% certain. Very cool. Very cool. Well, yeah, hello. Thanks for joining us stream. George says, what dog breed is it? That's a great question. This is a very handsome mutt. So it's a memorial piece from someone that supports me on Patreon. They say it's a German Shepherd mix. So I have, like, that's not the dog, but this is their dog. His name was Harry. Passed away a couple months ago. There's their dog again. And then at the top here is their dog. So some sort of shepherd mix. Jared said, yes, the same Jared. I don't have a Sappy account on YouTube. Not a problem. All right, let's gonna fluff up the tail a little bit. All right, I have spent enough time micromanaging and kind of moving around this mesh. This is good enough. It is time to make this dog an adventurer. So we had this dog for 13 years and described this dog, like most people do, as their best friend and adventurer buddy. So I really want to make sure that we kind of bring that spirit together. I love this harness that Sager put in our Discord, so I'm going to kind of just try to build that. So to capture that shape, I'm going to make sure I merge all of these poly groups into one, such as, and now come in with my masked lasso brush. I'm essentially going to paint on the shape of this harness and then extrude it. I also want to make sure that I'm looking at the reference I grabbed here. I think this is from Dungeons and Dogs. I can't remember. But I love this one too. So as far as all the little like bags and packs, minus the funny little shirt, same sort of essence and vibe. All right, so let's kind of get that shape. Cut out a little spot for his arms. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's snug it up a touch. Invert the mask, go to extract. Always extract with 0 thickness, it's just easier to manage. Oh, that's right, it's gonna be 2 different poly groups. Let's see if I can get these to merge together without it having a meltdown. No, it's gonna have a meltdown. Okay, so my base mesh had 2 different meshes here. So when I masked it, it actually masked 2 different groups, such as this and this. I really don't want that, so this is what we're gonna do instead. We're gonna take this base mesh here, we're gonna hit Command-Shift-D to duplicate it, and we're going to do a quick and dirty Dynamesh on this entire base mesh here. There we go. I'm not gonna keep this is just for construction purposes. We'll create that same mask again, a little cutout for his arms, but making sure it's connected through here, using mask pen to clean this up. There we go. Yeah, nice little dog shirt. There we go. And then extract. Perfect. And so now we don't have that issue like we had before. I'm gonna go ahead and keep this mushy dog base mesh that I've Dynameshed at the bottom here, but hidden, just in case I need to extract anything in the future while I work on this. I'm gonna bring up my gizmo with W and then Command click to inflate just a touch. Perfect. The Forge of Many Things is back. Hello, welcome back. You sure you don't need to spend a few more days making minute adjustments nobody will notice? But the temptation. Matt is one of my students, and we've been talking about that at length, about trying to find like the leak in the boat, so to speak. So it's very fun because it's very on topic. All artists. That's why I'm a good teacher, because I'm also making the same mistakes. So it's kind of like, it's a little bit of do as I say, not as I do, but I'm also trying to do as I say. It's so hard to do as I say. All right, let's make this a color that's actually going to stand out, that isn't just a boring black. How about a nice red? There we go. It's funny because as artists, you spend all this time like, you know, refining your artistic eye and learning how to see proportions like the first time and being accurate. And then at some point you realize it's just making the creative process really slow. So then you have to back off of leaning into your artistic eye and developing a new type of artistic eye, which I like to call good enough, which is difficult. All right, we're gonna mask or polish by features to clean this up nicely, and then using my inflate brush to kind of touch on this. There we go. So what's gonna make this look cool is the constructedness of it, which is pretty much a fancy word of just saying adding a lot of straps and pouches. So I'm gonna go in and load my tools, my items master library here again, and we're gonna throw a bunch of pouches on this dog, and it's gonna immediately look super cool. I like this one right here because there's lots of belts, but more importantly, there's also like a nice little rope on it too, which I think is kind of fun. You'll notice that I've made these pouches incredibly thick, And that's because I intended to design them so that they will just smush straight through a model. I do this because everything I design is for 3D printing, and whatever overlaps, it's just gonna get remeshed anyway. So I can kind of like decide how thick or how thin I want the bag to be without having to sculpt a bunch of different bags. Because this dog is going to be a pretty simple model overall, I think it's important not to just click mirror and weld and make each side look identical. I do think it's worth spending just a little bit of extra time to make each side look distinct. I don't mind if they have like the same general small pouches, but there needs to be a significant different element on both sides. All right, let's go grab some more pouches. Taylor's back. Welcome back, Taylor. Another modern era sculpt. Yeah, essentially. This is a memorial piece, actually. One of my patrons, Dungeon World, their dog passed away recently, Harry. This is Harry. Isn't he cute? So we are making a nice little dog adventure for him. All right, let's find some more pouches. I think I'd like to grab, ooh, probably a little chest on him too. You know, reminiscent of like the St. Bernard's and what is it, whiskey that they carry. We're in this early phase of kind of blocking out, so who knows how much of this I'm going to keep. But for now, it's definitely a fun one to dress up. I think it looks a little weird and a little chunky, but we're early on, so I'm going to just keep on practicing saying yes until I'm done with the blockout phase. Oops. So one thing that I'm missing here that I'm kind of noticing is that all the items I'm adding are very samey. What I mean by that is they're all the exact same size. As soon as I made these little pouches here smaller, I immediately liked it. So make sure when you're adding things, you have like a hierarchy of shapes, even within just accessories. So these pouches, I don't mind if those are mirror and welded. Very good. Same with this. I'll probably just have one big pouch right here, and then we'll put something custom on this side. Maybe a book or a bedroll, some scrolls. We have a lot of different options here. Sager says, oh, you know what I think might be the cause of the collie vibes? Try making the head bigger by like 20 to 30%. Heck yes. Jared says, wait, he's getting clothes? Yes, he's gonna be a little dog adventurer just like this. Because even though like, so everything that I do here is, it's a Patreon request, right? I don't just make straight up memorial pieces. You know what I mean? Like, I would love to do that. It's very sweet. Like the other memorial piece for the Scottish Fold, I made into a Tressum. It still needs to be relevant. And so I think a little dog adventure would be nice. I could just do a straight up dog and call it a familiar, but I already have those. So we're gonna make it more fun than that. Though I probably will have a clothed and an unclothed version. All right. And yeah, I'm not gonna actually add like the shirt. I think that's weird. I like the idea of adding a book or something, you know, kind of like an adventure book for the two of them. In hindsight, you were totally right. The head is too small. Good catch. Smudge that down. Grab my gizmo, we'll increase by 10% to start with. Oh, the eyeballs were not part of the sculpt. I actually don't mind the eyeballs being set in a little bit, so I'm going to keep that and then continue to increase the size of the head. There we go, that helps. Perfect. Awesome. All right, and then a couple other things I want to start modifying on this vest thing that we're making. As of now, it's one continuous piece, and it's a little boring to look at. So I'm gonna come in with my Z modeler brush and click and drag. I can kind of highlight like a pocket I can cut out here. There we go. Perfect. And I'll probably do the same thing on the underside. Awesome. So that will naturally make it look a little bit more like a strap, and I can use this to extrude belts off of too. I'm going to duplicate this base right here, just in case I want to come back to it. Let's go ahead and hide that. And now on the other one, I'm actually going to make into a thing. Remember, I always do a negative offset of 100, and that just makes my life a lot easier to maintain that silhouette that I just created. There we go. Clicking apply and then crease. And now let's start painting on some of those belts and extruding those. I should be able to just extrude using extrude and polyloop. If it fights me at all, I can just go ahead and mask it by hand. The way that I have this constructed, it should work no problem. Yep. Working as intended. I'm going to insert a couple edge loops here to build up on the straps on the edge. Just something really small that will catch paint. There we are. Perfect. Still a lot of stuff we're gonna have to add and refine, but it's all coming along. I think adding some buckles would help. I could actually come to this one underneath that doesn't have any subdivision levels as a really easy way to click and drag buckles on. Technically, it shouldn't be in symmetry, but I am a more is more kind of person. Give these a lighter silver color for the buckles. And that reminds me to repaint these pouches. There we go. Slowly starting to come together. It's really one of those models you can't rush. It's gonna look done all at once, but until then, just keep on keeping on. I'm changing my paintbrush from dots to drag rectangle, which will allow me to click and drag and quickly add a bunch of color. If I furthermore go to mask my polygroups to 100 and my RGB intensity to 100, I can click and drag and paint these buckles all at once really quickly. Kind of a nifty little trick. And then as I click on different meshes here, I can achieve the same thing. So these little bars that I have don't actually extrude all the way to the bottom because I rarely put this without there being a bottom to it. All I have to do is mask that one group, duplicate, rotate by about 180, and just throw it on the bottom. Perfect. And there we go. So as like those of you that already 3D print, you'll know that's like, oh, all this poly paint won't actually show up on a print. That's just a fun thing that I do. Kind of gives me a break from the design too, where I'm like thinking about all these other aspects I can add. There we go. I'm probably going to add another belt that kind of stretches along the side here. Let's go ahead and add that. There's two ways I can do that. I can extrude it from this base mesh here, or I can use my curve strap snap brush and kind of wrap it. So I can click and drag. We'll duplicate this first since I've been using it quite a lot. That's about where I want it to go. And then we'll hide everything except for this piece here. And then to add thickness, because currently it doesn't exist, if I have double turned off, you can see it's just glitching in and out, almost what it looks like. Essentially, those are single-sided polygons, so that's not going to print. Just add some thickness, negative offset, and then apply. And now we have these little nifty belts that I can adjust. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of trim to these sooner than later. Extrude poly loop. If you ever have a hard time with ZBrush doing what you want it to, and you don't want to figure out exactly what you need to do, you can always just brute force it by holding down Option when you're on a Mac, and then kind of painting on what you want to extrude. And then when you click and drag with Polygroup Island on, it will only behave exactly the way that you wanted it to. There you go. I'm adjust these little bags here so it actually looks like that they are fitted onto this little belt that I added. And I'm also going to change the color. I think it's about time to add a few more belt buckles. I have a brush set here with a bunch of fun bucklets. That's a fun word. So let's start adding those in. There it is. Oh, and I almost forgot that I do have other polls other than our initial one. Thank you guys for voting. Over 20 people have agreed that the dog's personality is the goodest boy. Very good. On a real note though, there are some more we can add here. What should this pup carry as their signature item? A magical chew toy of power? A bag of endless treats? A collar with a tracking gem? Or a leash that doubles as a whip? I thought that was a funny one. Whatever wins the poll will be added to the model. So that poll is up and live. Make sure you vote. It's at the very, very top of the live chat. In the meantime, I'm going to add some more buckles. I always make sure to inflate these a decent amount because again, these will be 3D printed. And they're so small, so any extra surface area I can add helps. No hat? What kind of hat do you guys want to add? I wasn't planning on it, but I could give him like a little adventurer hat. But you are the second person to comment on no hat. This makes me feel like I'm missing out on hat. I'm gonna do a quick mask here to make the trim a different color. There we go. It's looking nice. I forgot to add a little bit of a border on this bottom little pocket here. It's not the end of the world, but I will want to touch that up. And Sayer says, I feel like the whip leash is an excuse for you to add a tentacle / tendril. We have been working on a lot of plasmoid eldritch horrors here in the last month or so that's what that's referencing. So far on the win, we have a magical chew toy of power. Make sure you guys keep on voting, but currently that is the lead by quite a lot. I can make a cute little dog bone. Yeah, I doubt I have anything like that just by default. Yeah, I can make that. In the meantime, let me start adding a bit of fur texture. So again, this dog doesn't have super long hair, but it is decently fluffy. So I'm gonna start adding some fluff. Shepherd mixes always have that infamous butt fluff. There we go. It's gonna be on the back side of these legs as well. I'm not worried about these seams. They're gonna get blended once it's posed. Adding a little more volume. Excellent. Perfect. And I can blend some of these seams right now if I want to with my clay brush. Once I sculpt on these at all, it'll show the seam again, but it does make it look a little nicer in the meantime. Looking pretty nice. I love the little vest with gear on it so far. It's really cute. All right, that is looking really nice. I'm gonna wait a little bit longer on the pole before I sculpt this magical chew toy of power, just in case something else magically takes the lead. It happens every now and then. All right, doing a really crude and quick copy here because I think I'd like to have another belt right there. Yep, I like it. And of course that means even more buckles. Perfect. It just makes a little bit more sense of how this pouch actually attaches. Looking good. All right, the magical chew toy of power looks like it's going to stay in the lead. I love it. So I'm gonna look at my dog bone chew toy. All right. Let's go ahead and add that. This should be a pretty simple build. Let's give it kind of that whitish color and then ZBrush. This is just going to be a couple spheres and a cylinder. Nice and simple. we go. Pretty simple. And then I can kind of taper the ends of this as well. I'm going to turn on two different forms of symmetry. It's going to be on the Y and the Z axis. But first I need to make sure that these are actually centered in my scene. Not like that. There we go. There we go. Got a cute little dog bone that can kind of pin to the top of the bag. If Monkey was here, they would insist on a turkey leg. I just know it. Sweet. Nice little detail. All right, so you guys voted on that pretty quickly and unanimously. I have one more fun thing for you guys to have as we're at the end of our Tavern Keeper's craft. This is also a silly one. I don't really plan to actually affect the model, but it's just for lore building. Who is this dog's most feared enemy? The evil mail carrier, the ghostly vacuum cleaner, the League of Mischievous Cats, kind of reached for that one, or the Bone Thieves Guild. Sweet, that new poll is live. Just a little fun flavor text. This is looking fantastic. I'm gonna start creating a base for it to sit on. The way I do this is I import kind of this really simple, it's perfectly flat, the one I have in here. And I can quickly duplicate this and Dynamesh the top to then do some organic sculpting on. So here is that default shape. I'm not worried about like proportion or scale in the beginning because I wait to deal with that until the model is posed, all that kind of stuff. In the beginning, this is just a really quick. There we go. Let's make that a nice black. And then from here, I can just do Command-Shift-D. It's a quick duplicate, make it a little bit smaller, and then I'll probably do like a grassy outdoors base for this. And then Dynamesh. So if I hold Shift F, you can see the topology as it is right now. If I try to sculpt on this, literally nothing happens. But if I Dynamesh it, so I have all these even polys for me to sculpt on, then you can actually see some changes. Pretty cool. Let's go ahead and nudge this up a little bit. There we go. So the first thing that I like to do is just add really any texture at all to the base, which is, I like using clay tubes and then picking an alpha. Oh my goodness, Mapper. My dog is full death rattle snoring right now. I find that these like really bumpy alphas do a really good job and they catch paint really nicely. There we go. There's kind of like a base we can start building upon. Let's lower that a touch along with this. All right, and then from here, it's kind of fun. I just choose what I want to decorate it with. Let's get some grass in here. I like to go from the top down view, kind of makes life simple. And then make sure it's split into its own piece. Gonna make the grass just a touch darker for contrast. Maybe a little more saturated. Let's grab a couple different clumps here. That's good. Perfect. And then to make the base look a little more interesting, I'm gonna grab from drag rectangle to color spray for my paintbrush. So this adds a bunch of varying like shades. You have to be careful to prevent it from going just like full rainbow look, but if you do just a touch, it's a nice detail. I feel like my scene's looking a little dark here. Let's go ahead and adjust our lighting. There we go, it's a bit warmer. Perfect. Some other things I can add are some rocks and some flowers. I think either would look really nice. Let's add some flowers. I think some like white or yellow daisies would be really cute. Especially because this is a memorial piece, I really want the base to look peaceful, you know? Quite literally greener pastures. Now let's give these flowers a nice warm orange center. I'm gonna go back to drag rectangle to accomplish that. There we go, just a click, really quick click and drag. And there you go. It's looking really nice. All right, so let's see where these votes are right now. Again, if you'd like to vote, that's just the poll is at the very, very top of the live chat. And it is, who is this dog's most feared enemy? And the lead right now is the ghostly vacuum cleaner. Very nice. Satyr added a very on the nose, the spectral form of Valcoom, the Devourer. Sounds like something very Lovecraftian, Cthulhian. Beautiful. A proper fear. Man, that really came together quickly, didn't it? They tend to. Well, I'm not mad about that for less than an hour and a half worth of work. So, very nice. I think the requesters will be really, really happy with it too. I'm kind of messing with this head here, just clicking my move brush and kind of just moving around to see some different head shapes I can pick. There's like 20 different dogs here. Something that's going to really start helping define the face is once I kind of decide where the bone structure is underneath. Satyr has a really nice sketch for us in the Discord showing that. Essentially, what you do is you start taking your move brush and you start pulling off little ridges of fur around this bone structure. It can make it a lot easier to kind of figure out what you want these shapes to look like. I've lost a little bit of resolution here, so we can go ahead and repair that. I can actually hide the chin. That'd make my life a lot easier. There we go. That's one of the many reasons why take the time to split your mesh into a lot of different subtools. It gives you a lot more control. There we go. Perfect. Jared said, how long did it take you? 2 hours so far? Technically less than. So the first 30 minutes of my stream is just a warm up. So I wait for that 30 minutes to expire and then I start the Tavern Keeper's Craft. So we're currently at an hour 50. So yeah, hour 20. Amidst all the chatting and good conversation, of course. Y'all are always more quiet on a Friday. I think it's so funny. I can feel the peasants are tired. Y'all are still at work. You're almost to the weekend. Just hold on a little longer. Funny enough, I noticed that like on Monday are usually my most chatty streams. Just as like popular, we always have around 15 to 20 people, somewhere around there. But y'all are tired on Friday. That's partly why I always do a silent stream on the weekends too, because you guys can just recharge, kick back. Speaking of, usually on my cozy streams on the weekend, I start a little bit later, so expect that at around 1 p.m. Eastern time instead of noon. Jared says, speedy. I've gotten pretty fast over the last few years. Sater says, well, Sleeper, Blaze, and Aloha aren't here. That's true, kind of some of our main chatters. Not that I mind, to be clear. I really dig streams like this too. I'm happy to just kind of like quietly and like chill and narrate as I go. I never want you guys to feel like you need to talk in the chat. I am a big girl and totally happy just to hang out with y'all. It'd be very funny if I was expecting you guys to like entertain me in my own stream. I would talk whether y'all were here or not. It's true. Well, it's probably sooner than later I'm going to start adding a pose to this, and then I might do some fine details first. Taka, I'm always tired, and that's a-okay. You're welcome here. Sater says, Aloha's 6. I'll give her a pass for now. Okay, and Reaper, that's true. We only had one tailor here today. It was not a war of the tailors. Emperor says, I am tired, given human form. This is fair. This is fair. And you're also an empress, so you have like, you know, a whole empire to run. I'd be tired too. All right, so for the fur texture, I can do, you kind of notice I've built up this like secondary form here by using my move brush and just kind of pulling off these little like fur chunks. To add that like last bit of detail, it's gonna be like grab onto a brush and make things look like that ooh ah moment. I come in with one of these fur brushes I purchased a while ago to kind of block in some shape. You've got to be careful with it though, because if you just put a mountain of texture on here, it's not gonna look very nice. You want to make sure that you have different concentrations of like fur detail. So I hit Command D to add another subdivision level to the whole thing. So now I click and drag, you'll see there's lots of detail. This texture doesn't suit the model very well because even though it's a fluffier, long-ish hair dog, most of the hair just sticks straight out. That's why sculpting wolves is so darn hard. So what you really end up doing is something a little more subtle, kind of like that, and then I like to drop the intensity by a lot. It's one of those things that doesn't show up super strong on a 3D print necessarily, but you will notice whether it's there or not. It's not really meant to be dry brush, if that makes sense. Some areas that you can add thicker texture are around the neck, shoulders, and the spine of the back. The legs are going to be a lot shorter hair. All right, let's go ahead and add some of this texture. When you get to the center line, make sure you turn off symmetry, otherwise you're going to have problems. And if you do need some more help blending, like right here, see how it's starting to rip through and make it look all nasty? Just take your mask pen brush and do a nice light mask with your pen. Gasp, autosave, remove my mask. There we go. Do that on both sides. Also a friendly reminder that your mask brush is pressure sensitive. So if you just want like a heavy flat mask, make sure you disable use tablet. And then for the front fur here, kind of layer that in. This is why I give my students a hard time about buying pre-made brushes and using them, because there's still so much technique that goes into it. So make sure that so like right here, see how there's kind of like a seam? You could mask and try to like replicate it like this, but it's really heavy and detailed. You'll get the most leverage out of your pre-made brushes that you've purchased or made yourself if you can actually sculpt it yourself, which I know kind of feels like it defeats the point. But but I swear it's worth it. All right, so right now I'm adjusting my lazy radius and dam standard, and then I'm going to manually sculpt in this patch right here. And to create this texture yourself, it's just a combination of dam standard and standard. If you're wondering, oh, well, if you can sculpt it from scratch, why don't you just do the whole thing? Because we'd be here all day. And don't get me wrong, I love me some good TDM, but that's why I like doing yard work and chores outside. I don't need that in my art. There we go, and a nice, really simple blend. If you look for it, obviously you can find it, but it didn't take very long. And when you zoom out, beautiful. Excellent. But if you have no idea how to sculpt fur, you can see how this would not be helpful in the long run. All right, I need to make the eyes a separate mesh because as I'm subdividing, the poly count's kind of getting out of control. So let's go ahead and make the eyeballs a different piece. There we go. God, they look really funny. And then subdivide a few times here. I still need to fiddle with the head a little bit, but we're moving on for right now. Waiting for autosave. There we go. You'll notice that it really helps. I went through and made sure to pull off like these secondary fur forms. Because if you lay this fur brush, even though it looks really nice, if you just lay it on like a flat sphere, it doesn't work great. Always looking very sweet. Taka says, yesterday I checked how many days I worked this month, and well, there were literally only 2 days I didn't work. Oh, woof. What do you do for a living? I don't remember. Sader says, the first interview went well, and by the way, even without your help, I didn't know you were actually interviewing. Oh my god, that was just a joke. I would have actually given questions. Sorry. Sader says, first interview went well, just sent an inquiry to another practice, just explore options, we'll see. Oh my goodness. Oh, I hope it goes well. I'm rooting for you. Mikey says, what fur brush is that? Oh, I feel terrible. I don't know off the top of my head. Oh, it's FN. So flip normals. It's from flip normals. Haha. A lot of these brushes, they just name like fur. Pro tip, if you're an artist and you are selling assets or brushes, put your name on everything. Not just because like a credit issue, because people like me want to spread the word, but I cannot remember all of them. So if you put it in the name, it makes it much easier. So yes. Taka says, I work in a residential group home for kids. Oh my God, your job would kill me. So that's every day of the month almost working with children at that. Yes, I would be terrible at your job. I commend you. Goodness. Stick to it. You're doing a good thing. Also, kids are exhausting. Jared, I just saw your questions on in the Discord. You can self-promote as much as you want. The rule is once a week, but I just have that rule so when people I don't like post a lot, I have an excuse to get rid of them. Being totally honest. I like you. You're good. Go nuts. Also, you have some really cool stuff you're working on. And yes, my free STLs are on Patreon. But Jared, I used to like work for you for Titancraft, and you were wonderful. If you want some of my models, like you can just text me. Like I'll just send them your way. Or you can download one a day for free. Oh, Foxy's here. Hi, welcome back. Foxy says, I made it in time to see the good doggo. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Taka says, well, with literally any other job, it'd be crazy by now. The job's actually pretty fun and rewarding. I'm really happy to hear that. Just take care of yourself because it sounds like a very taxing job. So yes, since Foxy's just getting here, a little recap. This piece is actually a memorial piece. This dog's name is Harry, and here are some very cute pictures of him. He passed away a couple months ago from Dungeon World, a patron of mine. They've been around for like 50 months, so a few years. And usually they're also a merchant of mine, so they usually request like monsters and stuff, so this is the first time I've seen them submit something so sweet. Oh, Marvin just subscribed. Thank you, Marvin. So yes, I think I did a good job here, especially in just an hour and a half, so I'm feeling really proud of this. Jared says, hee hee, thanks. I hate being salesy. No, I totally get you. I'm getting better with that myself. It's hard. It feels so cheesy, doesn't it? But it's like, you make good stuff, you're proud of it. I make good stuff, I'm proud of it. That's how I try to phrase it in my head. So it's like, talk about the things you're proud of. I can do that. Then it doesn't feel salesy. Also, the live streaming has helped a lot. People, like Seder especially, they shell my stuff all the time. It's great. And they are absolutely unabashed about it. Everyone that comes in here, they're like, did you know Mia has mentorship? Do you know she has a Discord? Like, they're on it. And seeing them do it, I'm like, I don't want to be that abrupt, but I'm like, I can do a little better. All right, it looks like in the lead right now, we have the ghostly vacuum cleaner who is the dog's most feared enemy. Really cute and silly. I appreciate you guys indulging me on my goofy polls. They bring me a lot of joy. Jared says, yes, I'll try to use that mindset. And then very fitting, Seder is pinging my bot to tell you guys all about my Patreon. And then Taylor tunes right in. She is a great teacher. I love you guys, seriously. All right, I think this one is done for right now. Obviously, no pose, but I think he's going to be pretty happy with it. I haven't quite captured that face 100%, but some of that does have to do with poly paint. You know, I'm actually going to add those cute little white eyebrows dogs get when they get older. I just think it's really cute. There we go. He actually has a little dark stripe on his head. Right here. You can tell it kind of fades in some of the pictures. Just as a starting point. All those cute little white eyebrows dogs get. Like, it's sad because they're getting older, but it's also very cute. I only have 2 pets right now, and they're both pretty young, so I'm enjoying that for now. Let's see. Maverick my pug turns 4 this year, and then my horse is like 15 now. I can't remember. Which is like middle age for a horse. All right. Those feet look really silly. We're not going to talk about them. I will fix them later. In the meantime, let's get a nice little screenshot here so I can share with them later before it gets all nice and posed. There we go. Well, it's been a hell of a lot of progress since we started in the upper left. Pretty happy with that. Okay, I put way more screen grabs than I meant to. That's fine. Oh, Foxy, that's beautiful. Foxy says, Mia cooks, her community shills. Very good peasants. Sater says, from you it looks pushy or salesy, but from people in your chat it does look supported and like you're believed in, which you are. Aw, thank you. If I didn't believe in her or the quality of work, trust me, I wouldn't chill. And how dare you refer to Spartan as a pet? He is a noble steed. Yeah, Spartan is my horse for those of y'all that are new. He agrees. He would never want to be called a pet. He indeed would think he's a noble steed. Though I call him a donkey half the time. Anyway, very fun. All right, y'all. I'm going to take a bit of a break here. We're at the end of our Tavern Keeper's Craft. And we're just about at our 2-hour mark of the stream. It's currently 2:21. I'll take a quick break here. I'll return in just like 10 minutes because I always return early anyhow. All right, I'm returning at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, so wherever you are time zone wise, just on the half hour. Thanks for being here. All right, I'll see you guys in about 10 minutes. Hello, I am back. Had a nice restful break, got some water, did some stretches, and now we are officially in happy hour. So if you are new here, happy hour is essentially just a little bit different every day. Sometimes I make a new asset from scratch, sometimes I organize my asset library, or maybe do some pose cleanup. So that's what we're going to do today. But first, I'm going to save this model because I have not saved it once. But regardless, I never work on the same thing. I just keep it fresh. We will call this Trusty Dog Adventure. Perfect. And now I'm probably just going to resume what I did during the warm-up, which is working on Odin. Kind of see a little bit of him poking right here. I can actually just open this back up because I do not need my dog references anymore. There we go. Jared is yelling. Why? Yep, I'm back. Alrighty. So obviously this pose is pretty goofed up. Let's ungoof it. First thing we're gonna do is grab the sleeve and put it on his arm. Oh, how could you not save until now? No, it's not as bad as it sounds. I have a quick save every 3 minutes, like a lunatic. So if I click comma for lightbox and quick save, you'll see like a little like play-by-play. Speaking of, if you guys want to revisit any of these projects, just let me know. I worked on a slug miner, that was really cute. And then I have a plasmoid warlock about right here. Right here is the chimera we worked on. Because happy hour is just as much for you guys as it is for me. It's just like a fun palette cleanser, and I'm happy to revisit old works and show that off too. So there's that chimera variant. Finishing up the Imperial Sorcerer. And then we made a zombie office worker yesterday. That's all cute up here. So at any point I can double click on these and it opens up that ZBrush. So even though I didn't have an official save, here's all the work we did on that dog. So I can go to any of those points and resume. It's a little unhinged, I didn't do a hard save, but it's not quite as bad as it sounds. Anyway, let's go ahead and work on this sleeve really quick. Jared about gave me a heart attack. That's fair. So yeah, we're going to kind of just wind down here in the next 30 minutes or so, and then I'll move on to last call. This is kind of where I open up Q&A though, so if you guys have any questions for me, especially now is a great time to ask because I'm not as focused on the main project. So I'm happy to kind of dig into something a little more detailed. But if not, just kick back, enjoy the vibes, and as we move on to the weekend. There it is. All right. Whenever I'm doing organic deformations like this, I tend to use the transpose line rather than the 3D gizmo. It's not like a hard and fast rule. I find it's just a little more reliable. It handles curves a bit better. So to position this sleeve here, you'll notice I'm just simply using the move brush and the transpose line, and then a fair amount of masking. Any deformation that happens or any funniness, I can kind of clean up using pinch, or even if I need to, some remeshing. There we are. I want to make sure that this sleeve doesn't like fall in front of his face too much. So let's go ahead and tuck that back just a touch. I don't want to cover up this luscious beard. Okay, Sater says, headphone says, oh my god. Sater says, headphones were off, so I didn't hear what you said, but I like the sleeveless raised arm. It makes sense to the robe and the billowy, and it shows off his godly sleeper build. You know, that's true. If I didn't have this sleeve at all, it would hang down quite low. I didn't think about that. What if I just take this and scrunch it? Yeah, you know, gravity and all. That's true. We'll do a happy compromise here. Oh god, but his wrist is busted, so I need to fix that too. The sleeper build is very funny to me though. What if he just had no sleeves at all? He just looks all like hulked out. No, he's an old man. Where is my move brush? There we go. There we are. Taylor says, not a question, but if you have time here, I'd love to see you explore using remeshing on a hard surface object. I really wonder about the topology flow and how well it maintains hard edges. It does not maintain hard edges very well, but it can if you use polygroups. I actually have a video about that, not from me, but I shared with someone recently. My gosh, what is it? ZBrush, Z-remesher, hard surface. Because there's a specific YouTube video for this. I'm gonna find it. Yep, this is it. I'm gonna put that in the chat. It's only 7 minutes, check that out. He starts off in Maya, which drives me insane because it's a ZBrush video, but he very quickly shows how to do all of it in ZBrush, I believe, and how to maintain that. Essentially, long story short, the magic is polygroups. And I know you use Maya as well, so that would be helpful for you. I see Jacob Kelly just subscribed. I was about to say survived. Anyway, thanks Jacob. Welcome to the channel. I have watched so many darn videos on YouTube about ZBrush that chances are if you ask me a question about a video, if I haven't made one myself, I know which one to link to you. Just know that I do kind of watch videos like a heathen. I usually just like have them on silent with captions on and then like triple the speed because I have the patience of a gnat. But anyway, other than that, the content's usually quite good. Taylor says, I don't use Maya. I thought you use some sort of like... Oh, you do a lot of simulation stuff, which I immediately just think is Maya because it looks expensive. I was thinking of your nemesis. I was. I'm sorry. How dare I get you guys confused? Oh my gosh, this arm is so goofed up. Stop being so goofed up, please. We're gonna fix you. That's better. That's less awful. I guess you can bend that way. It's just, I'm looking at my wrist and like, is that possible? I'm like, yeah. But we're gonna make it look a little less uncomfortable. That's a bit better. Yeah. I need to go ahead and merge these little fingernails down to the body. That way they move together. That's better. Why did it grab that? Whatever. I'm going to be recreating that spear anyhow, so I don't need to be too picky about that. Let's go ahead and put this cape where it belongs. Split it into its own object, and then we're going to just scoot it on over to the back. Just like that. There we go. And then it's going to hide under like this little mantle right here, so I'll also split that into its own piece. I'm going to inflate the entire mantle just a touch because it's getting a little thin. There we go. Well, we're getting towards the end of the stream here. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with me. it's nice being able to chat with you guys, but I also really appreciate my lurkers too. Like, I don't know, I look over, I see a number, it's been, you know, the fact that I always have at minimum at least 10 people watching, I think is fantastic. I don't think I really streamed enough to even have the expectation of that many viewers, really more than 2. So I think I'm 5 times ahead of schedule. Very excited. Happy to have you guys here. All right, this one did not really require much cleanup. My kind of pose. Also a really fun and kind of epic pose as well. I'm going to adjust this belt here so it sways the right direction. There we go. Perfect. And I think it'd look better if this was scrunched up just a touch. There we are. So I'm going to go ahead and kick out this bit of the robe because I really want to kind of get this C curve of action going on. Curve of action, line of action. Though a line of action could be a curve. Acceptable. Jared says, be right back for a bit. Gotta clean some prints. Sounds good. Taylor and then emphasizes, no, I use Houdini. Maya is the tool of the mortal enemy. Yes, yes, you're right. All right, we are just working right along here. Not too much cleanup that needs to be done. Oh, that's fun. That's the finished model. Oh yeah, perfection. This sleeve has gotten so busted. Oh my gosh. All right, we're gonna reconstruct this sleeve. This is what I should have done. All right, take sleeve. Get it mostly shaped correctly. I was just kind of concepting with what I was gonna do with it. And then I ended up making no good decision. There we go. All right, once you get this sleeve positioned the way you want it to, we're gonna make it 2 separate objects. That's gonna make our life so much easier instead of just trying to smush this one around. That was making it really dumb. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mask this, split it into its own object, close holes and patch. Where is split? Why am I forgetting my own UI? There we go. There we go. No. There's an inner tube right there. All right, as long as it's, I don't love that it's making this little mesh all the way around instead of closing holes the way it's supposed to, but we're gonna just, it's fine. It's fine. And now we'll take this and we can mask this in sections. There we go. That's better. And get that scrunched up to the body because it's really not like a huge detail, but it needs some attention and love still. All right, but the top part does need to be higher. Perfect. Now let's spend a little bit of time working on that beard. We're gonna split this into its own object, kind of taking my time, clicking on each of these individual hair strands. There's not too much going on, so. There we go, it was worth the time. And now, I'm gonna mask just the top to make sure it doesn't actually fall off of his face. Invert that mask, grab my transpose line, and do a nice bend. I need to hide his chin again. There we are. Very nice. And then I'm not sure what is going on with this one piece of the staff that broke off. We're gonna reunite it right now. There we go. throw that up to the top of my subtool list along with this little broken part. And then stretch that. There we go. Long spear. Epic spear. Oh yeah, way too big, but it's really fun and I'll fine tune it later. As of now, for the render, it's feeling fun. All right, this is looking pretty cool. I like it. I'm going to use this sleeve as a little clever way to support the spear so it's not so fragile to print. Love me some little 3D printing tricks. And that way, everybody wins. Beautiful. I think it's funny that the body keeps losing poly paint in Character Creator 4, but nothing else. I'm not sure why that's happening. I don't really care enough to troubleshoot it. I just think it's funny that it keeps happening. All right, now I'm just adjusting any major clipping issues. Mostly saying that to myself to be like, okay, you do not have to fuss over this. Just do a good amount and then move on. It's so easy to get lost in the last little bit of a model, making it as perfect as possible. You do not need to. That is what I like to call diminishing returns. There we go. I do want this belt to sit just a touch lower, and then we can stop with this weird nudity jump scare that keeps happening. There we go. Let's merge that belt into one piece, and I can kind of put that a little lower. There we go. Kind of elongates the model a little bit. I like it. Very nice. Foxy says, I have begun my biggest print to date. When done, it should be 20 centimeters tall. Damn. Wish me luck. All the luck going your way. That's awesome. All right, so here is Odin without his pose. And now we have two fun poses. We got this one, pretty epic. Haven't moved the raven around, so don't mind the raven like being a dupe. All right, let me get all these pieces buttoned up here really quick, and then I can show you guys the poses back to back. Taking care not to merge things where they're not supposed to be merged. All right, so yes, we have the unposed version, and then we have posed, action, and a casual. Pretty fun. I like that they kind of flow into each other. It's like a little animation going on here. I think he's maybe leaned forward a little too much here, maybe. Let me just boop, rotate him back a touch. It does look like he's casting though. It's pretty cool. Nice. That spear is like comically tall. I'm not gonna actually have it that tall. But for now, it's fun. I'm gonna lower it just a touch, because even on my render, I'm like, okay, it's a little ridiculous. There we go. All right, so got this pose, stamp. And this one. All right, I'd say it was a pretty productive stream. Yeah, that looks artistic. That looks like an art. Perfect. Empress, animation time. Yeah, my goodness, to actually animate this would be epic, but too much. Sater says you should. Looks good to me. Thank you, thank you. All right, that puts us at the end of happy hour. Let's go straight into closing now. All right, it is officially last call. We're just past the 2.5 hour mark on the stream. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I'm gonna do a little recap of what we worked on today. So our opening and our happy hour is actually the same, and I was essentially just taking this pose and cleaning it up. We had some clipping issues from Character Creator 4 and whatnot. Oh, also during last call, especially if you're new or just tuning in, even though I'm ending the stream, feel free to ask questions, do not be shy. But yes, Odin's looking really cool, and I already have Thor printed like 100 times. The only thing that's really left for this is final prep for post-processing, which is to make it 3D print ready. Essentially take all these little pieces and make sure that any intersecting meshes are solid. Another way of saying that is calling it watertight. Once that is done, I also need to button up the spear. It's mostly going to look the same, but I'm going to make a few design decisions here where it's actually going to blend together a little nicer. After that, we did our main Tavern Keeper's craft, and today that was a dog adventure. This is actually a memorial piece, and it came out really, really sweet. I gave him those cute little old man dog eyebrows. This model is not finished. It is not posed or finished being detailed. But it looks pretty darn nice. You guys voted to have a trusty, what is it? Chew toy of power. So that's why we have that little dog bone there. And we also voted that his number one enemy is the ghostly vacuum cleaner. Very nice, very nice. It's true. If you're still here, like the stream. It does help. Enfer says, streams feel like they go so quickly. Good. I'm glad they feel dense, honestly. Because I think, 3 hours is a long time. So I want to make sure that it feels well-paced. And if I'm doing a good job, it'll probably feel pretty quick. And then not you worry, I'll be back tomorrow. So for the weekend, I'll be doing my silent streams. This is just kind of cozy kickback vibe. I encourage all of my other fellow creatives who are hanging out here to do whatever that is that you do that's creative, whether it's 3D modeling, mini painting, even just want to read a book. I'm not going to have any commentary on, just some good vibes, some music, and it'll be a really cozy time. So I invite you guys to come hang out with me on the weekend as well. I have not seen that. Sater says, speaking of, has anyone seen Nike's new catchphrase? You can't win, so win. Some real marketing geniuses on that one. Yeah, no kidding. What? Love it. All right, y'all. I think that kind of buttons this one up. Nice and simple. Thank you guys so much for being here. And if you are lurking and being shy, this is my last pitch for y'all to join the Discord. You are very, very welcome. And if you play Monster Hunter by any chance, there's quite a large group of us that have assembled that play Monster Hunter Wilds most days of the week. So you should come look at that too. All right, y'all. Take care, and I'll probably see you on the weekend. Bye.
you.